I think I've gone live to my Comic Tropes stream. Let's see. Well, we'll see if anybody jumps into this to confirm whether it's working or not, but I think it is. I was trying to do a live stream on my second channel, but I was having some technical difficulties, so I'm trying it on this one just to test some stuff out. We'll see what that means. Oh, yeah, a bunch of people jumping in. Okay, hello. I'm back on my main channel, and looks like we're getting a few more people jumping into this chat than the other, which makes sense. I was having some sort of technical difficulties, like streaming to my second channel, so I'm giving this a shot. Very strange. Draw Danny DeVito, huh? No. No. So, hello everybody. I've been having some issues trying to do some live streams. Yesterday I wanted to do one, and I couldn't get it working. So I drew this guy. It was a commission that I owed somebody, War Machine. And I used, just to be clear, I used reference. I used my Hot Toys Iron Patriot, but ignored the color swap stuff. And yeah, you have good reference and some patience, and it's pretty easy to do something this technical. It's not necessarily a very impressive drawing in its own way, but I seem to at least have the stream up and running today, so I thought what I could do is, like, just do some inking, maybe do some colors in a while, and take questions from y'all, just something to hang out. So, hello, it seems like there's a lot of people in here, and happy to see all that. Yeah, I'll probably do a video tomorrow of what I've read this week. But I have to, like, watch these live streams carefully, because people watch live streams a lot less than they watch, my weekly edited videos. And if I do too many live streams and, like, the audience figures, like, really low compared to what it normally is for Comic Tropes, YouTube sees that and says, oh, this guy gets significantly less views all of a sudden, we're going to stop sharing his stuff. And all of a sudden my my YouTube income just, like, plummets. So I got to be careful. This is probably kind of like a sort of weird random one where I'm kind of lonely and bored and figured I'd just chat with all of you. So that's what's sort of going on tonight, is just was in the mood to do a live stream. Let's see, when will you read JoJo? I've started to read it. There's a lot to read there. Do you watch Comic Pop? Well, I was just on it like a week ago, so I mean, I'm aware it exists. I have to admit I don't really watch it, no, because I don't want to get myself, like, distracted by what other people are reviewing, or influence my opinions by hearing what somebody else has to say about a comic that I'm thinking of. So I have to be really careful with that. I would love to plug myself into the YouTube comic book reviewer community more, but I'm very intentionally sort of keeping some of it at arm's distance. But I that's not a judgment against any of those people. Like, I just did, like 2 weeks ago, we did the at-home Comic-Con, and we had we had Comic Pop on that, and it was me. And Comic Storian's a pretty big name. Matt Draper, Owen Likes Comics, Comic Drake, a lot of people. So I definitely have nothing against sort of collaborating with these people, but do I watch their shows? Usually not, no. Oh, I see why. How strange. So Chrissy just texted me. Greetings from Argentina. Well, hello. Maybe why I was having trouble with the internet a moment ago is we are having a storm right now, and our neighborhood just went dark. Like, not us, but a bunch of our neighbors. How strange, isn't it? Like, so I've got a generator which still gives our house power. I would have thought that the internet would go down if everybody lost power, but maybe the internet is still connected since I've got a generator, but that's probably why I was just having trouble trying to do this on the other channel, like why it went down. Apparently everybody else in the neighborhood just lost power. Another Argentinian. Lovely. So let's see. Happy to catch this stream live. Yeah. Honestly, you deserve way more than 100,000 subscribers. Well, hey, it's always growing. So, you know, I'm happy that it's still growing. And hopefully it continues to grow. That would be nice. But I'm overall pretty happy with, you know, like how the channel is evolving. It's always been on a positive trend. You know, sometimes it's a little slow, but better that it's always going up instead of sort of plateauing or dropping, you know? So no big complaints here. I wouldn't say that it's quite at the point like my channel where I could call this my full-time job. You know, I wish I could do YouTube full-time. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that? But that's probably still a ways off. Let's see. Honestly, out of all the YouTubers, I only watch Rebel Taxi. I don't know that one. Sorry. I used to be a street-level vigilante. Oh, that's sort of true. Oh, cool. A super chat. Thanks. Let's see. Been reading Kree Skrull War, great arc, and Mortal Kombat X comics, which are better than you'd think. Any chance of doing some Mad Libs? Oh, I don't think I have my Mad Libs down here. It's a great idea. Maybe I can have it for tomorrow. I'll do a live stream tomorrow about what I've read this week. Sort of, I do mini reviews now. Just trying to create extra content while everybody's locked up at home. And so I'll try to do that tomorrow. That's a fun idea. Would I be interested in doing a video of the Morrison Doom Patrol run? Yeah, of course I'd be interested in it. There's tons of stuff that I'd like to do, and the problem is, you know, I've only got so much time. So that's the challenge. But there's lots of Grant Morrison stuff that I'd love to talk about. He's great. Have you read the manga Berserk? A little bit. There's a lot of that to read, so I've got a ways to go. But I do have it. That is a book that I started reading like a week or so ago. I hope you guys can't hear it, but there's thunder and stuff outside every once in a while. Did you ever get a chance to meet Stan Lee in person? I did. Actually, more than once. I got my picture taken with him once. That was like the only person that I've ever done one of those, like, you know, sort of paid photo sessions. But I like Stan Lee. I do. Is he a perfect person? No, but he did a lot for comics, and I like him. So I did pay to get my photo with him. I interviewed him once on a podcast I used to do. And I did see him at a couple other conventions. So I consider myself fortunate to have met him. He was always very kind and gregarious. Oh, another super chat. Let's see. If you could bring back any of the Marvel or DC canceled imprints, which would it be? I would bring back Marvel Max. For me, if I could bring it back, Vertigo, but it would have to be Vertigo the way it was run by the great Karen Berger. She did an amazing job running that. I mean, that's when we got everything... so many good things through that Vertigo, you know. Constantine, sort of Swamp Thing, but Preacher, Why the Last Man, stuff by Milligan, stuff by like everybody good, like just yeah, that's what I would bring back. I've picked up 22,000 in a little over a month. That's awesome. I don't follow my numbers super closely. I didn't realize that, but that's awesome to hear. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, my whole goal is to grow the channel. I don't want to be shouting my opinions into a void. I want to engage people, but it's tricky, because you have to sort of balance like what you want to do with what you think like some of the audience might want. Like my latest video has gotten some of the most positive responses I've ever received, which is very gratifying. That's my episode about Bernard Krigstein. I think it was just really important to discuss what he brought to modern comic book storytelling. But I also knew that it probably wouldn't get that many views. People aren't searching on YouTube for a video about Bernard Krigstein, and even like a bunch of my subscribers are probably going to go, I don't know who that is, maybe I'll watch it later, that kind of a response. And I knew that, but that's the kind of video I'm always going to keep doing, because I want to cultivate an audience that cares about comic book techniques and history. So sometimes I'll do a video that doesn't get as many views, knowing that really it's there because it keeps me interested and engaged, and it keeps it grows the audience that I want to have. I want to talk to you guys about comic books and why it's such a great, flexible and deep artistic medium. I think you can do so much with it. What TV shows are you binging right now? I wouldn't say that I'm binging any TV shows per se. I really am trying to focus more on comic tropes. But Ozark is one that I'm watching right now. And it's a really cool show. Yeah, Ozark on Netflix. Really good. Video on Richard Corbin. I would definitely consider doing that. Would you like to do an Akira inking? Maybe. What are your thoughts on the New 52? At the time that it came out, I was just sort of losing a little interest in mainstream comics in general. So New 52 was sort of where I allowed myself to drop out of reading regularly various mainstream comics. But I've now gone back and learned that there's quite a bit that's quite good there. Jeff Lemire started getting some work at DC with New 52, and so did Scott Snyder, and they're both really talented people. Yeah, I'm trying to sort of go back here and there and read well-reviewed arcs or stuff by people that have gone on to sort of make a name for themselves. So the short answer is I don't have like a lot of opinions about New 52, but the longer answer is that even if as an experiment I don't think it was necessarily like that successful, I think that there were some individual really good comics. But you know what? I think that's the way it always is. There's always junky comics out there, but there's also really good comics. And the trick is really trying to dig deep and figure out what's good. Yeah, I did hear about Taika Waititi getting recruited to do a Star Wars movie. Sounds great. Do I remember the 2007 TMNT movie? Sure. Yeah, it was decent. Can the virus kill the Grimace? Nothing can kill the Grimace. I sort of stuttered that one. Scott Snyder sounds familiar. What did he work on in the past? I need to read more. I'm only sort of just cluing into Scott Snyder relatively recently, but he had quite a long run on Batman that's quite acclaimed. The Court of Owls was like his big claim to fame, I think you could say. Thank you for the super chat. Have I read any IDW Transformers? First of all, real quick, no, I haven't actually. Do you like the original Marvel run or the Marvel UK run? It's what got me into comics, because I was a really big Transformers nerd in, like, third grade or something. I was really into Transformers, and I discovered a Transformers comic book before I really knew much about comics. So I read it, and I enjoyed it on the level that I would accept almost any sort of new Transformers entertainment. I've gone back, and some of it's okay, and some of it's pretty bad. It does not have necessarily a lot of passion behind it, might bar a few creators. But a lot of those creators sort of came in towards the tail end of the Marvel series. And now I'm not super plugged into Transformers as an adult. But it was definitely something I loved as a kid. And so, like, on some, like, nostalgic level, I'll sort of always love Transformers a little bit on that level. And it is what got me into comics. So I have to appreciate that. I think I'm back, guys. It's nobody's fault, but the reason the stream died is I'm doing this during a storm. I probably shouldn't have. So, like, I'm not like you're not seeing power flicker here or anything, because I have a generator, but it does seem to knock out the internet a little bit right now tonight. So just all I can do. All I can do is sort of keep trying. Sorry, everyone. Well, it's not really something I should apologize for. It's out of my control. But just trying to explain what's going on. Yeah, we're back. Any ongoing manga series that I'm currently reading? The only ongoing one I'm really reading is My Hero Academia. I really like that one. It reminds me of New Mutants back in the 80s. But I am reading here and there Berserk and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, just because people ask for it to be reviewed so often. But I'm not reading any of the, I'm not watching any of the anime or anything. So reading it is slow going, because you have to, like, get a new volume after you read it, and yeah, it's just slow going. So don't necessarily expect those reviews, like, right away, but it is some of the stuff that I'm reading out of curiosity. I think that, like, the stories I've heard on both of those get better once you've read a bunch of stuff and you've sort of engrossed in that world. I'm not too into JoJo's Bizarre Adventure initially, because I don't really care for the art in the first volume of, like, the first big Tankobon thing. The artwork is not that good. It's weird. It's an interesting story, but the art I don't really care for. Yes, I've definitely read Mouse by Art Spiegelman. Brilliant, brilliant book. You gotta. Don't pick up Billy Bat. I will, no matter what. Naoki Urasawa gets a pass from me because I've absolutely loved Pluto, Monster, and 20th Century Boys, so I have to try Billy Bat when that gets translated. Last time, did you ever... What do you mean last time? Did you ever read Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on a Serious Earth by Grant Morrison? Oh yeah, back when it first came out, so it's been a long time. But I really liked it at the time. That was, I want to say Dave McKean did the artwork on that. It's like, that came out like something like 88 or something. So it's been a long time since I read that one. Let's see. The art for JoJo gets amazing later on. Okay, well that's encouraging because I don't really love the artwork initially. I will admit that. It's quite awkward, honestly. But I think I may do an episode on manga in the next couple weeks. I gotta finish the one I'm working on right now. Oh, yeah, probably you guys are kind of curious, like, why wasn't there a new episode this past week? So I'll explain that for anyone that maybe didn't hear me mention it on, like, social media or anything, because I'm sure not everybody follows me on social media, but I was feeling pretty sick this past week. Not, like, coronavirus sick, just to be clear, but I was... I just had terrible stomach pain for like over a week. It was awful, and I could still do stuff, but anytime I sat down and was ready to like start writing, I was just in so much pain that I couldn't focus. I just could not focus. So I'm running pretty late on the next Comic Tropes episode. Just understand that it's just because I was pretty sick, and hopefully, I feel better soon. Well, I mean, like, hopefully I keep feeling better is I guess more how I should phrase it. But yeah, that's all that's going on there. I've got an episode that I'm working on about a pretty popular modern writer. Somebody said that I hadn't done enough writers lately, so doing it on a popular modern writer, and hopefully people will like that episode. Did you see the cartoonist kayfabe interview with Gerard Way? No, I have to admit, I'm pretty behind on a lot of cartoonist kayfabe stuff. But that's cool that they have been getting some good name interviews. That's definitely cool. I know that they had Todd McFarlane and I think Eric Larson recently. I'd like to see that one. I know they had Howard Chaykin. I'd be very curious what he was like. I'm sure that he was surly, but he's talented, so some people get a pass for being like that. Any plans for a Batman Serious House Serious Earth video? Maybe. What do I think about current animation? I don't know that I necessarily have a huge opinion on something like that. I can't say that I'm super plugged into current animation. It looks like more of it is being done by computers. Like they rig a model and then they can move every little bit, and that's an interesting way, but I don't think it's as fluid. It's definitely cleaner. Let's see, a nice super chat here. Marvel needs a peace machine, not brand X. Oh, instead of War Machine, a peace machine. Okay, yeah, I guess they do need that, huh? Yeah, I kind of messed up on this head, but whatever. I'm doing the best I can. Have I read Naruto? No, I have not. I don't know that one, really. I'm aware that it was a manga, but I have not read it. Is it prideful to do an episode on yourself? Yeah, no, I would not do an episode on myself, but I came sort of close. The closest you'll get is I did an episode where I had found a Transformers comic that I made when I was 10 years old, and I read half of that. There was 30 or 40 pages I read and did sort of a sarcastic critique of that. So that's about the closest you'll get, because that was technically my stuff, but not really anything I remember doing because it was so long ago and I was so young. But yeah, I made a 60-page Transformers comic when I was 10 years old. It's utterly ridiculous. It's repetitive and derivative, and it's pretty dumb, honestly, but that's why I thought it was so funny. And so I was like, this is worth doing an episode about. Hopefully some people find this funny. Have I read Sandland manga? No. Don't know what that is. The Harley Quinn cartoon makes fun of comic book nerds. Good. Let's see. If you're doing comic writers, my suggestion is Alejandro Jodorowsky. Yeah, I've come close a couple times to discussing Jodorowsky, and I haven't. I definitely have some opinions. I read his stuff before I knew about Jodorowsky very much, and now I know more about him, and problematic is probably the word. Problematic. He did some pretty horrible stuff. So, makes it hard to, like, discuss somebody that's, like, that bad, you know? The Dune documentary about him is really good. It's a great documentary. Jodorowsky's Dune is great, but they also don't talk about the horrible stuff that he did. So... yeah, I've seen his movies and stuff. He's an interesting character, but also, yeah, well, I don't want to get into it because it's so dark and negative. You almost need a content warning. Would I do an episode on your friend Brian Pulido? Well, never say never, but I have to admit I don't really know anything about him. I never read like the Evil Ernie or Lady Death comics. They didn't really seem to appeal to me too much. So that's sort of a blind spot that I have. You know, never say never, because anything can be interesting. But as it stands now, like I wouldn't even know where to start with, like, you know, commenting on somebody like Pulido. I'm not very aware of what he's done. You think Marvel should do an advanced Game of Thrones aesthetic planet? Okay. Have I read My Hero Academia Vigilantes? No, I've only read the stuff by the creator. None of the spin-off stuff. And I haven't watched any of the anime. I'm just not tremendously interested, I guess. Did I read Silver Surfer Requiem? Was that by Latour? I read that. Was that Silver Surfer Requiem? I can't remember the title. Thoughts on the new Warriors announcement? Oh, did they have another new announcement? I haven't heard any. The last thing I heard was just like the announcement about like the team's code names and stuff, but I haven't heard any further announcements. Sorry. $132 on YouTube's alone. Nice. What would you think of an Invincible movie? Maybe even a cinematic universe? Oh, I'm biased, you know? I mean, of course I want my friends to be successful, so I'd be all for it. Throw in Brit and Wolfman and Tech Jacket and the Guardians of the Globe. Absolutely. What's not to like? Ever read Kia Asamiya's Batman Child of Dreams? No, haven't heard of that one. Kia's artwork is quite unique. I mean, the way he does noses. But I haven't read that one, no. Sorry. Don't have an opinion on it. Guys are always just curious, like, what my opinions are. But it's like, in a way, who cares what my opinions are? What matters is if you guys liked it. I, don't necessarily, you may notice with my videos, I don't necessarily usually do a flat out review and just say like, hey, this is good because of this, that, and the other. I'm more trying to break down why certain choices are made, what makes certain choices unique, or what informs certain artistic decisions because of like history or the times that they're in. So, who could Keanu Reeves play in the MCU? I don't know. He's kind of aging out of a lot of the roles. That's a tough one. Venom versus Alien needs to be a comic. Yeah, that could be fun. If they can make, Superman or Batman versus Alien, I don't know why they couldn't do Venom and make it fun. Venom. Oh, remember that rap song by Eminem? Venom. That was not his best. And I like Eminem sometimes, but that Venom rap I can't say that I'm a big fan of. Venom. Have I seen the new Invisible Man movie? I did. I like that one a lot. I'm a horror nerd. I'll watch anything horror. How about the Invisible Stalker guy as Moon Knight? I mean, maybe. I can barely remember what he looked like. Anybody could play the Silver Surfer. Yeah, almost. AVP versus the Spider-Verse. If you had a chance to work on any comic book character, either in art or story, who would that be? Something of my own creation. If that's what's getting offered, like, that I could work on anything, I'd love to do like one of my own original ideas. Yeah. I think that would be the most fun. Not to put it down in any way, because it would definitely be fun, but I don't think it would be as difficult to do like, a Spider-Man story or a Doctor Strange story or anything like that, because you can only go so far with whatever you come up with. You have to like make it so that it could like sort of be reset, and you can definitely tell good stories, don't get me wrong. Like, I love certain Marvel and DC stories. I love them. But it is also, to a degree, creatively limiting. But if you could do both, that would be fun. And if you were asking more like, of existing characters, then I guess I'd start with Spider-Man. That's the one I relate to the most. Danny McBride is the Silver Surfer. What up, y'all? Silver Surfer here. A lot of rock stars have had comics. That's totally true. Let's see. Is there an obscure character you wish got more love? Probably, but if it's obscure, it's going to take me a minute to think of somebody. Who's an obscure character? Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a good answer off the top of my head. Like, Ragman! Everybody, Ragman's the best! Now, if you'd asked me when I was like 14, I'm sure I could have rattled off these answers very, very quickly. But it's a little less of what I think about now. I tend to think more about the decisions and techniques that are made in comics. I remember Kiss had a comic book. They definitely did. Not most, I shouldn't say that, but a lot of rock bands have had comics. That's just the truth. Now, a good inker would be able to give this stuff a lot more of a shiny, reflective look, you know? That's what should really be getting done with this ink job. It's got me thinking about like what decisions I could be making to make this a better piece. I don't claim to be a great artist. I just like doing this, and I like to try to get better. Let's see. First time catching your live streams. Welcome. Your steady hand is very calming. Well, that's nice to hear. I can see how that would be. Let's see. I don't think shiny fits War Machine. Yeah, but a little bit on certain areas. A little bit. Who's the weirdest person or character to get a comic? I'll have to think about that. There's a super chat here. I just wanted to say hi and I dig your show. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. You've got me reading all kinds of stuff. That means a lot to me, just because I really think that like people can learn a lot by reading different kinds of comics. Superheroes are fun and stuff. Yes, I did pencil this, Mario. But I think that like reading a wide swath of comics can really start illuminating stuff about the human condition. You know, I think that there's a lot to be learned the more we can read about comics. Like, you know, if I just read Superman, fine, I'm having fun. But if I'm also reading stuff like Persepolis or Mouse, then I'm learning about different types of people. If I'm reading Blankets, I'm learning about different types of people, you know? So there's a lot that you can learn by reading lots of different types of stuff. Do I have Marvel Unlimited? I don't. I did at one point. It was really nice. I just, I may go back to it someday, but right now I just, didn't need it. Trad Moore's great. You know, I haven't really read anything by Trad Moore. I've heard that a lot of people love his art, but I'm not super familiar yet. But I just think that comics are so amazing in terms of how much they can expose you to the world and to how other people think. It can tell you about history. It can tell you how to do stuff. It can tell you how to be heroic. It can tell you how to be like what the nature of evil is. Like there's all sorts of fundamental truths to be found in comic book stories that I think has real value. But even just, you know, a storytelling as a distraction has a value. Like right now, I would not sell that short at all. You know, we're in tough times, and if people can like find a little bit of respite by reading a story, that's awesome. And what I like about comics is that a lot of it can take place in your imagination. You do have to like have a certain level of buy-in to create the voices of certain characters. And yet so much can be told that like can't in other mediums. Like, you know, you can have the visuals that you get in TV or film, but you can also have the like get into people's thoughts and descriptions and feelings and poetry like you can in novels. It's great. Can we buy this art from you through PayPal? Not this art. This is a commission. Somebody already bought this. So, sorry. Remember when toy lines would get comic books like Team America? Yeah. Yep. And I think that the only reason they really don't now too much is just that kids don't buy toys as much. They buy games. Not too many people buy toys anymore. Toy industry is... there's a reason there's no Toys R Us stores, you know? I grew up with G.I. Joe and Transformers were the two big toys that I liked a lot as a kid. And so I still like them. And but I'm very aware that it's not really much of a thing anymore. I'm glad they're both still around, but they're not around anywhere near the level they were when I was growing up. Amazon sells a ton of toys. Yeah, but there's no toy stores that like sell like lots of different action figures and like board games and stuff. Not as many as like there used to be. I mean, yes, it's still a thing, no question, but it isn't like it was in the 70s, 80s, 90s. How about a Punisher versus She-Hulk comic? Sure, how about it? That would work. I feel like toys could flourish when more games are based off of toys, like War on Cybertron probably boosted toy sales. Yeah, I've thought about that too. When I was a kid, if you wanted a toy line to be popular, it had a cartoon. You know, like there was a He-Man cartoon and a Thundercats cartoon, G.I. Joe, Transformers. That all had a cartoon. You know, Smurfs and stuff. But Smurfs started as a comic actually. But still, now I think if you wanted to make G.I. Joe popular again, instead of like trying to do another cartoon, which would be fine. Even a movie would be fine. I think that like if you had a video game, like if for some reason they put the G.I. Joe brand, you know, just sort of slap that image on top of a Call of Duty game or a Fortnite game, that could become really, really popular. And then people might want some of the figures because they're more engaged with the property and the idea and the imagination and stuff. X-Men Lord of the Rings crossover. Boy, I don't know what that would look like. That would be interesting. Let's see. What do you think about comics coming back to retail stores like Walmart? In your opinion, do you think an audience is out there in the wild? Yes, I do think that there's an audience out there. The experiments with Walmart are kind of weak so far. Yes, that's a great venue to discover, you know, an audience because so many people shop there. But they either have hidden those huge DC 100-page comics in like a section where nobody goes. They're not over near toys. They're like, you know, just sort of buried next to their, I don't know, Pokemon cards or whatever that like nobody really goes over very often. Or it's like there's a couple stores that have done end caps, but it's for some kind of like bland indie comics that no one's excited about and like kids aren't going to recognize at all. So they're not going to go like, this is where I want to start with comics. Anyway. Hola. I buy comics from Walmart all the time, or I did before you know. I love your Stan Lee Daredevil episode. Well, thank you. Thank you. Are we still getting a Man or Tomorrow movie? I don't know what that is. Sorry. Is G.I. Joe what we call Action Man in the UK? Yeah, basically. Yeah. Yeah. Same property. Action Man, there's some differences, but yes. The short answer is yes. Have you guys discovered any comics while you're quarantined? Anything like, you know, that you were just like, hey, I've always meant to read this and now you have? Anything like that? I'm always curious to hear about what people have discovered. Or discovered anything in general. It could be music or a TV show. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles got really popular because of the cartoons and the toys. Sort of. It was honestly super popular as a comic book before that, and that's why they were able to do that, and it kept everything going. So you're not wrong, but it's not the only reason it's popular. Like, it was already super popular as a comic. Lock and Key. Hey, I love Lock and Key. Great comics. Great story. Great, great, great. One of my favorites. X-Men Inferno 90s. Yeah, I remember that stuff. I loved it. Moon Knight. Okay. Lots of people have discovered stuff. Has Diamond Comic Distributors started up again? They're going to this week. Here in Brazil, G.I. Joe is Commandos in Action. Yes, yes. Lots of different names. Kingdom Come. Yep. I've read a couple new superhero web comics. Okay. That's cool. I like finding new stuff that people are passionate about. And I do admire, like, anyone that puts out a web comic. They're doing that for passion, because not many people get rich off of, like, a webcomic. Obviously, a few are successful, no question. But in general, like, they're doing that because they're like, hey, I've got an idea that I just want to get out into the world. I want to, like, make this a reality. And I admire that passion. I always admire that passion. That's why one of the most fun things I do, one of the things I do that I have the most fun doing in comics is when I go to a convention, I love exploring Artist's Alley. Because yes, there is some schlock and dreck there, but you're also going to absolutely find passion. Nobody sets out to make a bad comic. It takes too much work. So everybody's definitely passionate about what they've got. And they're paying for, like, a table and taking the time out of their lives to sell it. So, there can be some really amazing stuff you can discover when you explore Artist's Alley. War Machine looks a lot like a Transformer. Yeah, I guess he probably does. Marvel Boy says doesn't know where to start with comics. All I can say is figure out what kind of genres you like for other kinds of things like movies and books and stuff. And I promise there's comics that are in a similar vein. So it's really just a matter of figuring out what you like. There are new indie comics in Walmart right now in the book aisle. Oh, really? Butch Geis. Well, he's a very talented artist. Very talented. I did not know that. I don't know when I'm going to have time to go to Walmart again. I really am trying to stay at home as much as possible, but if I go out, I will keep that in mind and explore. I'm all for discovering new comics. I'll tell you, comics ain't going anywhere. Things are going to change, I'm sure, right now. But comics aren't going anywhere because even if Marvel and DC closed shop, they're not going to let those characters go away, Those characters are owned by huge companies that aren't going anywhere. So that intellectual property is going to be around. All the artists and writers that we like, they're not going away. They're here. They're going to keep working somewhere. And, Will American comics change? Quite probably. The American comics industry has always been tremendously resistant to any change. That's just its history. And that's okay. That's just what it is. But, manga is going to be around. That stuff sells great. Like, Japan is going to keep making comics. Raina Telgemeier puts out a new comic, and that stuff gets sold in Walmart and Target to millions of kids that are growing up with that as, like, their introduction to comics. But that's comics. So as a medium, it ain't going anywhere. But some things may change about how it gets distributed, how much it costs, and things like that. But it ain't going anywhere. What are your thoughts on former DC Comics publisher Dan DiDio? Don't know that I necessarily have any big opinions personally. I never met him, so yeah, I can't say that I honestly have any big opinions on him. Let's see. Manga from local library is free. Yeah, that's something that people sleep on. You can read a tremendous amount of comics for free if you just ask your local library what they have. And I'm talking like digital stuff too. You can read tons of comics digitally simply by talking with your local library. They'll set you up. I mean, that's something that we all pay for with our taxes, our libraries. And trust me, you can read a ton of comics that way. So there's some amazing tools there that if you don't know about, you're sleeping on it. There's if you like comics and you're just like, there's nothing new coming out, well, I guarantee there's tons of old stuff you haven't discovered yet, and you wouldn't even have to pay for it, because guess what? You already have by paying taxes. So I strongly recommend, if you've never looked into that, to talk to your local library. You'll find some cool stuff. Is Chris liberal? I don't know how that necessarily connects to comics, but yes, I'm definitely liberal. Have you heard of the Guyver comic? Absolutely. That was like one of the first Japanese things I ever heard about, because they did that live action movie back in the 80s. Now, I had heard of other things before. I'm just saying it was one of the first mangas I discovered. Every library in my area is closed. They still will have, usually an online system. I look like Ron Swanson of Parks and Rec. That's awesome. I'll take it. There any books you would recommend in order to improve as an artist? Books? I mean, I guess I would say that anatomy books, books of architecture, books by fine classical artists. Those are all books that would help you improve as an artist. I haven't read much Korean manhwa, but I have a coworker who's really into it, and she tells me about a bunch of it. But she can read Korean, I guess, and I can't, so that's her advantage. Let's see, last thing. It doesn't have to be your last thing, but let's see. Kelsey asks, or says, thanks for the good work you do. You are a positive force for comics, and we need more like you, and thanks for not blocking me. I don't really block anybody. Even if we have, and I'm not saying you, Kelsey, I'm saying anybody. Say we have differences of opinions or something like that, politically, or about your favorite comic book artist or your favorite comic book run, anything that we could have a big difference of opinion on. At the same time, we're all here, you're hearing me, because you like comics, and I love comics. So I like you for that. We connect on that level. Art brings people together. Music and paintings and plays and stuff. It's brought people together forever, and it will. That's what I love about art. It brings people together. It absolutely does. Movies would not make the millions and billions of dollars if it only appealed to one segment. You know what I mean? And I will count movies as art. It's commerce too, but I'm just saying that we always have commonalities. Even if we have huge differences, we can enjoy some of the same stuff. And that means that somewhere deep down, we definitely have commonalities. We definitely do. And I think that when people are in really bad situations, most people become kinder. I really do believe that. I really think that if you were driving down the street and you saw a bicyclist get hit by a car, I think that most of us would stop and try to help that person if we were right there. I really, something like that. I think most of us would try to help people. Or if, like there was a big flood all of a sudden and people were getting like swept down the street and you could reach out and grab someone, of course you would. We're the same in that result. Ever get drunk and debate comics? I don't necessarily debate comics, but I've probably gotten drunk and talked about comics. Your channel is very different. You're not a hate-mongering lunatic. Well, thank you. Oh, wow. Hold on. Super chat here from Jesse. Discovering the channel over the past 5 months made me fall in love with comics again. I dug out my old collection and I've been rereading it all. That's amazing. Thank you for inspiring all of it with the informative and exciting content. I'm very grateful. Well, I'm grateful to hear that, Jesse. That's awesome. Go back and read your favorite comics. Rereading stuff, you'll discover something new. And thank you also, Chris Sears. That's really generous of you guys. I really appreciate that. I'll just let you know, like, I got furloughed at work. That means, I'll have my job when it opens back up. But right now, I ain't got a job. I got YouTube. Unfortunately, it's enough that I can pay my bills. I'm luckier than some. I'm luckier than many. But it's also a little nerve-wracking to not have your job. I'm used to collecting a paycheck. So anyway. Got to do the arc reactor here. You know what? I don't think it was called the arc reactor in comics before the movie, was it? I think that was an original term that they made for the movie. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was an original movie idea. And if so, what a cool name. That first Iron Man movie holds up. That's a good movie. Not a great movie, but it's definitely a very good movie. Do you set a goal for yourself creatively? I definitely do, but it's more in terms of like an amount of content that I want to create for the channel. And I don't always hit it like this, but wow, hold on. Glongdor Brown Hands. That's a unique name. Glongdor Brown Hands. Thank you for the generous super chat. That's amazing. Glongdor Brown Hands. That reminds me of a character I once came up with. Just like I was like tired and feeling punchy, so I was being silly, and I was just trying to make Chrissy laugh, and I was just like, my name is Poop Browner. Now, just to be clear, that is my name. It does not imply in any way that I know anything about poop. It's purely the name that my parents gave me. The thing I do know about is real estate. My job is real estate, and my name is Poop Browner. I cannot tell you anything about plumbing. That is one thing I cannot do. But one thing I can do is sell you a great house at a very fair APR. Because I know about real estate. Come work with me. Poop Browner. Sorry, just being silly. I'm confused about the Tony Stark Iron Man run and the Iron Man 2020 run. Tony Stark 2020 was a character that came out of Jack Kirby's Machine Man comic. It was an Iron Man of the future, like an evil uncle of Tony Stark. Arno Stark, I believe, was his name. And now we're in 2020, so they brought him back. But I can't tell you everything about that character's history. I'm not an expert on like that bit of continuity or anything. But that's where he came from. Was the Machine Man comic, which was, yes, it was set in the far-flung future of 2020. I don't know much about comics either. Again, my name is Poop Browner. It's just my name, and what I do know is real estate. An evil nephew. Yeah, not uncle, of course. If it's super far in the future, you're right. Nephew. You're right. Thank you, Cookie. Someone submitted a piece of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure related art in one of your videos, and it sounded like you didn't really know what it was. I didn't, because I've read a little bit of, I've read the first volume of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but there's a lot of it, and so, yeah, I don't quite get it yet. Bob Layton's run on Iron Man. That is the era when I discovered Iron Man, so never say never. That's something I could do. Never say never. Oh, I miss going to the movies. I really do. A good Iron Man video game, yeah. There was an Iron Man Exo Manowar video game. That they did a crossover. Valiant and Marvel did a crossover video game once. That would be an interesting thing to review. I don't really do that on my channel, but that would be interesting. Maybe Godzilla Mendoza would be up for like a collaboration on something like that. He reviews video games that are related to all sorts of comics. Not exclusively, but he does. Oh, that would be fun. I should reach out to him, see if he's up for that. Yeah, I had AMC A-List too. Is there a Marvel or DC Comics character that you would recommend to a first-time reader? First-time reader. I mean, I guess Spider-Man would be where I would recommend somebody start if I had to choose between those two. Do you prefer the Raimi trilogy or the Holland duology? Probably the Raimi trilogy overall. I really like it. I think it is very accurate to Spider-Man. Number 3 is not a perfect movie at all. It definitely has a lot of problems, but I still enjoy some of it. The story coincidences like bother me, but like the actors and the themes they address are pretty good. I don't dislike Holland at all. I love that it's so ingrained with other like Marvel stuff. I love seeing Spider-Man with the Avengers and stuff like that. Just saying that, like, if I had to choose overall, I just would call the Raimi trilogy a little more focused. It's not an easy choice. Hot take. Tobey Maguire is an awful Spider-Man. I thought he was great. I loved him. You make me laugh, and your appreciation for comics is rare to see. Could you say what the next vid will be about? I don't want to give the whole thing away, Iron Shell. I appreciate that super chat. I'll just say that it's about a current, pretty popular writer, okay? So I'll leave everyone with that, and, I'll have it out as soon as I can. Sorry that I was sick again, but that definitely delayed me. Just was not able to focus on any work at all. I hope everyone likes it. I've got all sorts of ideas though. I'll tell you some of the ideas that I have, like just in general, but like no specific time frame. Right now I'm working on like, research and stuff for let's see, Daniel Clowes, Hugo Pratt, Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, The Origin of Bishonen, trying to do some interviews. So there's all sorts of stuff. Whoa, another super generous super chat. Wow, that's so nice of you, Sansanity. Thanks, guys. And gals, everyone. It's very generous of you. It means a lot to me and Chrissy right now. It really does. It helps us feel like a little safer. So those are a bunch of people that I'm working on different. I'm like, just so you know, I'm never just sort of like, this week I'm doing this person. Research, write, record, edit. It's more like constantly reading about like 5 to 6 different things, going like, okay, now I know more about it, but what's the angle there? Like, what am I trying to say? Like, I'm not just going like, this person was born in 1952. This was the most popular comic. They also did this. Here's what happened in it. Kind of boring, right? Like, I mean, I probably have done episodes like that, but that's not my goal. My goal is to say, like, this is what this person did. Here's what was either going on in their life or going on in society at the time that maybe influenced them. Or maybe they did something that, like, then influenced these other people. Or this is what they're trying to say that another person couldn't have said the same way. That's what I'm trying to get at. Do I always succeed? No, I know I don't. But that's my goal. My goal with the show is to talk more about, like, why something is special, not just saying, here's what happened in it. Can we buy some of your comics? Can you sign a card to put in with it? Maybe someday, Dragon Ball. Right now, I don't know how I would, like, have the time to manage mailing it and stuff like that. Like, I'm already, like, having a tough time mailing out things like the Gachapon prizes, or like my patrons all get like like a Comic Tropes enamel button or pin, I should call it. So mailing stuff out takes a lot of my time, and I got to figure out a better way to do it all, and I don't have that way yet. Who's my favorite classic Marvel artist? Classic, huh? That is a tough question. That is a tough question. My favorite. What are my favorite artists? I would say that some of my favorite artists are guys like, Jesus, there's going to be so many. I'll just start listing a bunch. Ditko, Ramita Sr., Buscema, those were all Marvel guys, like, from the previous generation that I liked. Neil Adams, Will Eisner, Frank Miller. When I was a kid, definitely like, Todd McFarlane and Jim Lee, Bill Sienkiewicz, Dave Johnson, Cory Walker, Nate Bellegarde, Tony Moore, Alex Toth. Jesus, there's so many guys that I admire.